Hello, folks. Joe Hunter here. I know I put on several little shows about our different vacations and stuff, but I got one here that's true to my heart. Probably the best vacation me and my wife ever had in our life, and we've been all over the United States. I mean, we've been to every state but Iowa, all over Alaska and Canada. But it was just a little 1 week little vacation. But it was when we was younger and we was on a motorcycle. We both really loved motorcycles back then. I bought a Yamaha tour bike. And we loaded that son gun down with tent, folded chair, you name it. We had clothes, everything except for cooking. We didn't bring nothing for cooking, okay? So we took off one morning about 7 o'clock, and we're going to Florida. We're going to Disney World is where we're going. It had been open about a year. So we go down Interstate 10, and we took it all the way to Pensacola. And we got to Pensacola. We dropped on down, and I'm not sure, but I think the highway that runs along the East Coast is called 98, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Well, we get about halfway down there to Disney World, and we decide we're going to stop and see some friends that moved down there several years before. He was in the Air Force. Him and his wife adopted two little darling girls, about 2 years old. They were dolls. And we stopped by, we'd see them. Their name was Joe and Rita. So we gave them a call and got directed on how to get to the house, went to the house and spent the night with them. Had a very enjoyable time with them. She even made some homemade bread. She called it black bread because it was made out of, I guess, raw, whatever. It was about that big around, about that thick, but it was black. She sliced that thing, we put butter on it while it was hot. And I'm going to tell you what, that was some kind of good eating right there. Well, me and the wife got up the next morning early. Wasn't sure exactly how far it was to Disney World, but we wasn't too worried about it anyway. You know, we just having a good time. So we get back on the coast highway, and we're going. And every now and then she'd look at the map. We pull over, she'd look at the map. She says, well, we're getting just about where we need to turn, she says, because Disney World's going to be just about straight east of here. So we kept looking until we found a little blacktop, 2-lane road. We turned on it and started heading east. Well, wasn't too long, we come to a big orange orchards. I mean, there was miles and miles and miles of them. She said, boy, them oranges look good. So I stopped the motorcycle, stepped across a little ditch, went over there, some of the limbs hanging over the fence. I picked us 4 oranges. I know a lot of people's mind, that's probably stealing, but back then, that wasn't stealing. That was just an adventure to us, okay? It made it more exciting to get them instead of stopping in a roadside place to buy the oranges. It was just, I don't know, just put more excitement into the air. So anyway, we keep going. We finally come to Orlando. So let me back up a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself, okay? This is really neat here. Whenever we turned into Florida and started going down Florida, we spent the first night, and I can't remember the name of the little town, but they had a little RV site behind it. It wasn't a big one. So we pulled down in there, and they were, I imagine, 25 or 30 campers. Some of them, the old type driving motorhomes and, you know, RVs and just, you know, camping trailers. And they even had a school bus in there fixed up like a camper. So we pulled in, we paid our $10 for the night. We started unpacking, got our chairs out. And I get the tent out, and we put the tent up, got the sleeping bags, put it in the tent and everything. And before we got everything done, there was people all around us, doesn't come outside, was sitting in lawn chairs watching us. So I tell you, what are them two fools up to, you know? But that wasn't what they was thinking, believe it or not. We finally got everything all set up and everything, and it started to get kind of close to dark. So I said, well, we need to take off and go find something to eat. So before we had a chance to do it, the couple that was right there within about 25, 30 feet of us, man's wife come walking over there. She said, we've been watching y'all. Y'all seem like y'all having such a marvelous time. I said, man, we are. I said, we having a ball. I think at that time I was like 26. She was probably maybe 23. So they said, what have y'all got plans for supper tonight? I said, well, not really much of nothing. We're going to find a hamburger joint. She said, no, would y'all mind eating with us? We got more steak than we can eat. Well, hey, she didn't have to ask me twice. And I knew that wasn't true. They probably put a couple extra steaks on it just for me and the wife. So they fixed supper for us. And we had steak, we had corn on the cob, and she even had I think it was an apple pie. And we sat around, we talked with them till about 10:30 that night, telling them what all we had planned on doing and everything. And they both said, you know, we wish we would have done something like this when we was younger. So it seemed like y'all are having such a good time, as we are. I said, you can't wait till you get too old to do it because you can't do it on a motorcycle if you get too old. And I'll explain that at the end of the show. So the next morning, we get up bright and early. Here's everybody else all around us sitting out there in chairs. They want to see how in the world we're going to get all that stuff back on that motorcycle. Well, I made an extension for the back carrier luggage rack. Had some 3/4 stainless steel tubing. And that stuck us out another 2.5 foot past the luggage carrier. So we put light stuff out there. I think we put our 2 folding chairs. I think we put the tent. And that was about it. Because all 3 of them are lightweight. And the rest of the stuff just packed in, put our clothes in saddlebags and everything. And we take off, and that's when we go down, we spend the night with our friends, and we left there the next morning going to Disney World. Well, we get down there, and the wife said, well, we're not going to sleep in the tent because I don't want to go into Disney World all hot and sweaty and stinky. I said, no, we'll get a room. So we found a hotel right there in Orlando, probably wasn't 20 miles from Disney World. It was pretty reasonable back then, about $25. Well, we go to Disney World, and we get to pull right up to the front gate because that's where the motorcycle parking was. So we had pretty lucky. So we went into Disney World, and let me tell you what, we stayed there until it closed that night. You talking about 2 wore out people. Now, we was wore out, but we seen everything they had to see. We ate there twice, which cost a fortune. And a lot of the exhibits and a lot of the shows and all hadn't even been done yet. There was a lot of stuff that wasn't even complete, so we didn't get to see what there is down there like now. We've been back 5 other times, so we know what all they didn't have at that time. So while we was in that area, we asked one of the little gals running around there, said, do you know any other attractions here around Orlando and all where we can go see some other stuff? Yeah, well, there's a SeaWorld, a Wiki Wacky, 2 or 3 other things. So, well, great. They might not have been right there in Orlando, but I mean, it was within an easy half-a-day ride, you know. So we get up next morning, we didn't see all the Disney World we want to see, so we take off and we go to SeaWorld. I can't even remember where it was at, but it wasn't that far away. And we watched all the show at SeaWorld. And brought this great big old killer whale. It was sitting like 3 rows from the edge of that big pool they had it in. And she gives him that number up there. He went, and when he come down, he drowned everybody that was sitting with us 6 or 8 rows up from where he was at. So we got drowned pretty good. We didn't mind. It's all in fun anyway. It's hot. Hey, we dried out just a little while. So we had a good time there. And we ate that night, and then we went to be in the hotel. We're in another hotel. Out next morning, I said, where you want to go? She said, let's go to Wiki Wacky. I said, okay. So we went to Wiki Wacky. And they put on an extreme nice show. They were girls that were doing all kind of acrobatics, all kind of crazy stuff down as you look through glass windows. And they go down there and had tubes hanging all in the water. They go up down there and get them a breath of air and they go back. And they done, stuff that was unreal. And they stayed down, breathing this little tube every now and then for about 25 minutes. And that was a fantastic show. We enjoyed that. So we spent the night there and we found out about Crystal Springs. So we want to go see that too. So we take off, we go to Crystal Springs. Well, yeah, Crystal Springs, they had a guy that fought an alligator, which that wasn't new to me because I'd done that when I was a kid. And all kind of little, you know, gimme shows. And then you get on this glass bottom boat and you take a ride. I think it's called Crystal River, and it goes into Crystal Lake. Now the man told us, I don't misbelieve me, he said, right here is where Sea Hunt was filmed. When they filmed Sea Hunt with Lloyd Bridges. And you can see the bottom in that lake. It's about 30 foot deep. You can see the bottom like it was that deep. It was unreal. They had fish down there, like bass like that. They had catfish. I'm going off the screen trying to show you how big they were. I'm talking about 60, 70, 80 pound catfish. Well, we left there and we took another little detour through the swamp. And they said, now, Tarzan, Johnny Weissmuller, when he was making movies down there, all them monkeys don't. All them monkeys, that's my dog letting us know somebody's going to get here. She's our doorbell. All these monkeys, they just left them there, and there was hundreds of them. And they'd run out on the inland, they'd make a dive, and they'd land on top of little cover on top of the boat, and he give everybody a piece of bread, and they hang over. He give a piece of bread, and they run and jump back ashore. I thought that was pretty neat. And all them monkeys was back when Johnny Wasmell was making Tarzan movies there, and was just left there, you know. So we spent the night there in a hotel. Went and got something to eat, spent the night in a hotel, and got up next morning, ate us a good breakfast. And I said, where you want to go? She said, I don't know, just go riding. I said, well, I'll tell you what, let me take you down to Cape Canaveral, where I was stationed. So here we go, boom. A couple hour drive, baby, you know, from Disney World in Orlando there down to Cape Canaveral. So we get down there, and I told her before about the Tall Texan. It used to be one of my favorite hangouts. It was a bowling alley, but they had a bar. They had some of the coldest draft beer I've ever drank in my life. And usually it would be over 1 or 2 people. It's a good place to go sit down and listen to music and drink a few beers, you know. So we go to the Tall Texan. We get down there. We're going to Tall Texan and get us something to eat. They had a little restaurant attached to the bowling alley, too. While we was eating, there was this young man coming. I ain't a young man. He's probably close to my age. But he come walking in there, and I told my wife, I said, I know that guy. She said, you think so? I said, yeah. He sat at the table right straight across from us. I don't want to interrupt your supper or your dinner, whatever you got there. I said, but let me ask you a question. What you want to know, Pat? I thought I knew you. I was an electrician on Observation Island. Well, he said, I sure was. I said, what you doing here? He said, well, I had about another year to go after you got discharged. He says, and I met a nice gal down here, and he said, so I'm married, and I got on with the power company. I said, well, good for you. He said, we're very happy. We got 2 kids. That is great. That is great. So we rode around all over town, Titusville, Merritt Island, and everything. And it's time to go home. I said, well, we got a long ride. I said, the best way to do it, I said, we'll go back towards Disney World down there. And I came in the highway. We hit some highway, took some highway, and run into I-10. And then we take off. We're going on I-10 going west. And it come a rain. I mean, it come a monsoon. We were soaking wet. We was tired. We drove all the way to Alabama Causeway. And we pulled into one of the big restaurants there. And asked them if we could use the bathroom before we got something to eat and wanted to change on some dry clothes. They said, sure. So we went in that bathroom, we changed the clothes. And all we had was just pullovers and shorts. That's all we brought for clothes. No fancy clothes. It was set there. We both had a seafood platter. And when that was over with, we left there and drove all the way home. And if I remember right, it was probably, it was at least about 12, 13-hour drive on that motorcycle. We was flat, both wore out the time we got home. Let me tell you something, folks. That was a wonderful trip. And if I'm talking to young folks right now, let me tell you something. If you got the money, take the time to go see America. Don't spend your money to go on a cruise or go overseas to foreign countries. Spend your money right here. There's more stuff in the United States you can see in a lifetime. Believe me, we have seen a lot of stuff. A lot of our cases, some of them took as long as 3 months we was gone. 20,000 miles on the vehicle. But we've seen all over the whole United States, Canada, and Alaska. And I'm going to tell you what, I don't think there's any foreign country that's any prettier than what we have right here. I'm proud of our country. We have a beautiful country, okay? Now, then before I told you that I wished I still had a motorcycle, well, about 6 months ago, I used to love to stop by the Honda shop in Brookhaven, just walk in and kind of daydream, you know, because I've loved motorcycles. I've had them up until probably my son now, and he was like 2 years old when I quit riding because I don't need to get killed and leave him young like that. Because I completely have several bad accidents on the way home from work. And I parked my motorcycle in the garage, and that was the last time I rode a motorcycle. So I was telling my wife, I said, boy, I sure would like to have me another one. So I went by the Honda shop, and the guy that runs the parts department, not the parts department, the guy that runs the sales, one of the people that sells you the bikes and stuff. I asked him, I said, how much you want for that Gold Wing out there? I said, see a Gold Wing for sale. Yeah, that's mine. I said, what do you want for it? He said, well, I got to have $5,000. Whoa, well, yeah, I guess you do. And it had maybe 30,000 on it. It was just really a gold wing. That's just breaking one end. You know, they water cooled everything. It's like an automobile. So I said, okay. So I called the wife. I said, go down to the bank, get me $5,000. I'll fix to buy a gold wing. She said, you sure you want one? I said, don't you want one? She said, yeah, if you can help me get up on it. She got authorized for a belt. I'll figure out a way to get you on it. So she come back, and I said, while you're in town, go by the insurance company, go and get insurance on it. She brought me the money, got all the information she needed, went right straight back to town and got insurance on it, which wasn't a mile and a half from where the helmet shop was, where the insurance office was. So I'm ready. I bought me a helmet. I told us, look, I don't expect me home soon. I said, I'm going to get out there and ride this thing for a while. So I might ride it all the way to Natchez. They don't tell me, well, I might ride it to dark because I'm going to be getting used to the joints, you know. I said, but first I'm going to try to ride it around here a little bit and get my feet back on the ground. Well, with my back and my knees like they are, I could not throw my right leg over the seat to get on it. So I just climbed up on it, and that ain't good, you know. That should have triggered something in my mind right then, but it didn't. I wanted that motorcycle so bad I could taste it. You know, I could just see me and her cruising down the highway, you know, just having a great time on it. Well, I finally climbed up on it, cranked it, got the kickstand off, and just my toes was touching the ground. I didn't know this until later on. And I'll tell the rest of the story to you in a minute. So I ease out of the parking lot and I'm doing this. I'm wobbling and everything. Every time I go this way, I could barely touch the ground like this to keep the motorcycle balanced. That's a big, heavy bike. Let me tell you, that thing weighs a lot. I'm not sure exactly how much it is, but it weighs a bunch. I got out of the parking lot and made a turn. When I did, it started wobbling. I knew I was going to lay it down, so I give it a little gas, got over the edge of the curb where I could lay it in the grass, and went over and I jumped off. Well, I went and turned the key off. I went back in there, and there was a couple of guys that were standing outside the shop there. They were mechanics. I told them what happened. I said, can I get y'all to go pick that thing up and bring it back here for me? He said, sure. And it took both of them to pick it up. I'm just glad I wasn't pinned under it. So I walked aside and I told the guy that owned the place, I said, look, I just bought that gold wing out there. I said, I realize now I can't ride it. I said, I just don't have the balance anymore. I figured he might maybe give me half my money back or whatever, you know, because I mean, I did buy the bike and ride, and I rode maybe 100 yards. He went out there and looked. I said, I didn't damage it none. He looked good. He said, no, he ain't scratching nothing on it. He says, okay, come on. He gave me every penny of my money back. That really surprised me. That's a nice guy to do something like that. Most people that give you 2/3 back maybe or something, they wasn't going to give you it all. So I went over and seen the guy that owned the motorcycle, and I told him, I said, man, I said, I wanted this so bad I couldn't stand it. I just couldn't. I couldn't ride it. I couldn't keep my balance. I said, my toes just barely touched the ground. This guy's about 6'5". Well, I didn't know it. They got like air shocks up, can lift that motorcycle up. And it was up high for him. If I lowered it down to where my feet would have fit flat on the ground like that, I probably could have rode it. But I thought about it. I called the wife to come get me. I think the good Lord might have been trying to tell me something. So I said, okay, I'm 77 years old. I don't guess I need to be riding motorcycles no more, folks. But we'll talk at you later. This is Old Hunter signing off.